hate us. What Mitt Romney has in common with the KKK.
Tea Party politics and the like really reach a new level of white supremacism.
The Republicans lie. They want to see you dead. In a way, Obama's standing above the country, above the world. They're sort of God.
And guess what this liberal will be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing and the government running all of your companies.
First of all, give an honor to God and our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama.
The love for Obama is so great. The presence of Obama, even on the press corps, even on the people who follow him every day, when they're near him, they lose their mind sometimes. You know, they start behaving in ways that are juvenile and amateurish.
Most journalists I know are liberal.
What are the negatives in your movie about Barack Obama?
Well, I mean, the negative for me was there were too many accomplishments. I had 17 minutes to put them all in there.
Where do you find fault in him?
You know, I don't, frankly. But I'm really quite in awe of him as a leader and the choices he's made.
77% of people asked by the Pew Research Center said the media tend to favor one side in America.
The news.
The news. Behind the statist media lies.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Brock Lawley program. My name is Brock Lawley. I am your fearless host. And this is the show we tackle the news headlines, sifting out the leftist alphabet soup Democrat party. Sorry for the redundancy. Not party. Party. Sorry for the redundancy. Lies like the chaff that they are from the golden wheat of truth. Let's jump into those stories, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So first off, before we even do that, I want to send you off. If you are a person like me who is constantly lamenting the present state of education, I'm constantly haunted by the fact that I often don't offer many solutions. I mean, there are political solutions that I believe in. I believe in vouchers. I believe in charter schools. I believe in, quite frankly, the internet opened up the Wild Wild West by way of options in education. But I often don't turn the audience towards anything as a solution. And here's one. I think you properly pronounce this Agamim Academy, but the website is agamim.org. And it's basically just this free, amazing online platform. I think it's unfortunately only free in Minnesota. But it is an amazing curriculum, classroom style classic education setup, and I think this is the future. And the reason I'm making hay about this, the reason I'm shining a spotlight on it, is I truly think this is the educational future, not just for conservative rationalists like myself, by way of people who see the madness descending like an octopus around education, but just for everybody. It's a fiscal reality that's heading towards us. So anyway, once again, agamim.org. All right, Rubio picking up some speed, ladies and gentlemen, picking up some mojo. I suppose you can make the case that the entire Bush sort of crowd, and I don't know what that is. It was always in the mystery realm for me, because you wouldn't just stumble upon a conservative that was like, man, I'm a real Bush man. I just want another Bush in the White House. But apparently they existed. They existed in the polls, at least. I think I told you guys this story when I was at CPAC playing CPAC. Right before Bush came on stage, all these guys arrived in buses. They went up to the front of the stage. They were like hooting and hollering while he spoke. As soon as he was done, they all got back in buses and drove off to who knows where. And bear in mind, this is right outside of Washington, D.C. So for all I know, there were staffers. But that whole charade took place. And that's always how I saw the Bush camp. You know what I mean? Pomp and flair, establishment Potemkin village, but no like meat. I'm constantly having these conversations with people everywhere, and I never actually met a real Bush voter or an actual Bush supporter in real life. I just never did. It was sort of like a weird aberration, somebody that buys Spice Girls records. They exist. I know they exist. There's record sales, but I never met one. Anyway, apparently Rubio's picking up those people. So there it is. And I suppose what that does mean, though, is a lot more money and structure. I mean, it does mean that. A lot more money and structure. I don't happen to like the money or the structure that's coming his way, because it's establishment structure. And, I just don't like that. You already know that if you listen to this podcast. But I'm sure it still gets some votes and helps him. I don't know how much so, though. Trump appears to be a runaway train, and I just can't see a way. There's no way to predict the future, but I just can't see a way in a scenario on this present chessboard. What I mean is the pieces as they are laid out right now, I just don't see a way in which one of these other candidates catches him. I just can't see it. But this has been a crazy circus anyway, so any kind of predictions are all in vain at this point. Washington Post has the piece about Bush voters moseying towards Rubio. Bill Bennett, many of you might not know him, but I used to read him as a kid. He has this awesome book of virtues for children. But Bennett is a Salem radio host. He's a huge intellect, a giant in the conservative movement, served in previous elections, Reagan being the most notable. Just a monster by way of the mind and a conservative pillar. And apparently, he's advising Trump, as is Rudy Giuliani, Arthur Laffer from the Laffer Curve fame, Steve Moore. So Trump, aligning himself with some real gravitas, quite frankly. I mean, people that I have a ton of respect for. When I read this article, I was shocked. I don't know whether some of these guys see the writing on the wall, want to get in early, or whether they see some value in just sort of giving this guy some political crash course by way of an education. I'm not sure what this is, but there's a piece in the dailymail.co.uk that covers this, and I was just fascinated by it. The names on this list that are coming around him, it's interesting. And these names are not, these guys aren't like rabble-rousers. They're not like people who hyperbolic, throw firecrackers at the opponent. These are serious men with serious track records. These are academics in some cases. These are think tank chair holders. I mean, I'm talking about gravitas. So it's interesting. It's real interesting. And by the way, I was thinking about this. I got a friend that's just devastated that Trump has all this momentum. Conservative guy, devastated. And we actually share a lot of the same hesitations. I'm just not as devastated at the notion as he is. But I'm watching Trump on Hannity last night. I don't know how many you caught that. It was a fascinating interview. Hannity had him for the whole hour. And it's just Trump on a chair with Hannity, surrounded by potential voters that I'm sure were handpicked by the Trumpster. And they're having this back and forth. And that interview, more than any, has really, just made me think this guy's going to win. And here's why. He's like a political prodigy, this guy. I mean, it's amazing his instincts, having no previous experience. It just goes to show you that there's nothing grandiose or special in and of itself about being a politician. Because this guy, quite frankly, has run circles around politicians, and seasoned politicians, by the way. Can you get any more seasoned a politician than the Bush family? And he is just running circles around them by way of instinct, by way of media manipulation, by way of talking points, by way of controlling the narrative. I mean, it's just startling to see it. And this is something I know something about. I worked in this field. But I noticed a pattern that Trump has that disturbs a lot of people. But to me, I haven't made up my mind about it. And you might find it interesting. Trump is often criticized for not being specific. That's probably the most common accusation leveled against him by my fellow conservative-leaning friends. It's like Trump isn't being specific. Trump is just, screaming out, America's going to be great again. America's going to be awesome again. Things are going to be huge. All this stuff. And there is a cartoon character aspect of his campaign that can't be denied. But the more I think about it, the more I think, is this not just his savviness? So let's put our desires aside and let's just soberly look at the political landscape in 2016. Does the average voter care about wonky policy talk? Well, the answer is a firm no. In fact, most people that even pay attention to politics don't want to hear that. It's a rare, very fine sliver on the pie chart of the electorate that has any appetite for that at all. So I think the answer can be a firm no. Nobody cares about policy wonky talk. They just don't care. Their eyes glaze over. And that's if they're even watching the political show. And that's an even smaller portion of society. So my point is that nobody cares about that stuff. And even the people that are demanding that he say it, they don't care either. I think they just see it as something to say about the guy. But perhaps he knows something that the rest of the politicians should have learned a long time ago, and certainly to some extent the Democrat Party has wised up to, which is it's all about fame, and it's all about just talking points, period. Talking points, full stop. That's all it's about. Because that, first of all, it's all that's going to get reported. It's all that's going to get tweeted. It's all anybody outside of the political incubator is going to hear. And this guy just understands that. So, for example, when they try to drag him into some sort of firm statement, he just continues to throw red meat. Things that he knows will resonate. Things that he knows people want to hear. He just continues to hammer that. Does that mean that Trump's a moron? I don't think so. Does that mean that Trump doesn't have any thoughts beyond that? I also don't think that's the case. I think he just happens to understand the low political IQ, heck, low cultural IQ he's dealing with. I think he has just a gut instinct. Hey, it might come from the fact that he's produced a reality television show for a number of years. I don't know where he acquired this skill. But he just has an ability to know where that line is, to keep it entertaining, to not bore, to just keep it moving, to keep the excitement alive. And let's be honest with ourselves. Who's to blame for that? Who is to blame for this ravenous-like appetite in the body politic for this kind of dialogue? Well, that's us. That's the constituency. That's the voter. That's who we've become. Oh, you might be screaming at the podcast right now as you hear me. Oh, not me, not me, not me. Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying that every single person fits this category, but you know darn well that the millennial voter or the average person today, do they want to hear specifics about economic policies? Do they want to hear specifics about anything? No, they first of all want to be entertained. And second of all, they want to viscerally connect with this person. Do I feel like they're tough? Do I feel like they're going to make me safe? Do I feel? Thinking it's way down at the bottom of the list if it's there at all. I think Trump is a bit of a prodigy by way of understanding this. And boy, did he show that in that Sean Hannity interview. It was just remarkable. Jim Gatherly has a piece. This is in the National Review. By the way, anyway, I'm going to move on. The National Review piece I'm about to bring to you. Trump can beat Hillary. This is a fascinating piece, by the way. And his major point is this. Hillary's having trouble beating Bernie Sanders. Sorry, I keep saying Barry Sanders because when I was a kid, there was a running back for the Lions. It was just probably one of the best running back to ever live. His name was Barry Sanders. So I know that I made that tongue-tied mistake a lot, but that's the reason. For those of you who just came out of diapers and are listening to this. Can Trump beat Hillary? The point is yes. I mean, a gray-haired 75-year-old socialist, and she's barely keeping her head above water. Now, Trump's no Sanders. Trump is the real deal. He lands haymakers. He owns media cycles. He gives as much as he gets. Sanders has got velvet gloves and has for the entire election, and arguably that's the reason he's going to lose, is because he won't bloody this chick's lip by way of a political reminder to the constituency about the fact that she should be in pinstripes in a paddy wagon. That in and of itself, I think, would help Sanders, but he's not willing to do it. Nonetheless, that's not Trump. For better or worse, that's not Trump. So I think he has a great point. National Review lays it out. I think Trump would slaughter Hillary Clinton as we sit today. I really do. How Jeb spent his money. What a disappointing reality check this was. The New York Times, of course, investigates this like blood, like a bloodhound would. Notice they don't do this for any Democrat candidate. But nonetheless, this is still disappointing. You know, the campaign fast lane, making it rain, money pouring all over the place. The fact that this guy dumped all this money into commercials, what a waste of dough. Anyway, if you're interested in such a thing, New York Times has it. Biden called for the delay of Supreme Court nominee with the Republicans. All these old Democrats are coming out for the hypocrites that they are. Dems will say anything at any time for any reason to get what they want. Hypocrisy is not something that troubles them. It never has been. It's all means to an end for the Democrats, all power. But the New York Times has a piece on that. Biden just, will say anything. More on Biden at the Wall Street Journal, the comments. Again, there's no consistency. And I mean, look, politics is a bunch of hypocrites holding hands. I just find this particular audacity amusing. Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary sues to ban proof of citizenship to register to vote. In other words, there's this odd notion that you should have to prove that you're you before you can vote, and the Democrats do not like this. I don't know. Maybe it's because they cheat and steal elections. Who knows? What a novel idea. One of the things that's hard for me to choke down, however, from the Democrat Party, specifically Hillary Clinton, is claims and accusations of voter disenfranchisement. Listen, the Democrat Party has superdelegates, which basically supersede the electorate. So you go into a primary and vote, and the superdelegates say, who cares? We're doing what we want. And all those superdelegates are bought. It's all corruption. The whole thing on the Democrat side of the aisle is rigged. Now, to the Republicans' credit, they changed their system as to alleviate this stuff. I'm not saying they're squeaky clean, but this is ridiculous. The Democrats essentially will get the candidate the Democrats want, no matter what the electorate says. Then they turn around and lecture people who think you should show a photo ID to prove that, wait for it, you're you and not dead or an illegal immigrant that just jumped over the border before you can vote. I know, real crazy. How these people say this with a straight face is beyond me. Freebeacon.com has the story. There's a fascinating piece that I'm still making up my mind about in the Wall Street Journal that basically makes the case that mass incarceration that we're hearing about all the time is a myth by way of the numbers. Latzer has the piece. He has the numbers too, so it's interesting. I have to further vet this, but I'm drawing your attention to it because you're hearing all this talking about mass incarceration from the left. Ottawa celebrating Hajib Day. I don't understand what is happening to my nation. These people are cutting off heads and we're having days of celebration in their honor. I suppose it's top-down, trickle-down insanity as the president is teleprompter reading from mosques nowadays. A new fatwa on Rushdie. I know many of you don't know this. This is in independentco.uk. The price on this guy's head went way, way up. I love how everybody's just comfortable with this. You can't say anything or Islam hunts you down like some sort of dog. That's the world we live in. And lastly, I couldn't even hardly believe this story. I had to read it in 3 different sources. It's unbelievable. Madness at Georgetown Law. Okay, so Scalia is an alum of Georgetown Law School. The politics and grievance mongering that the leftism has infected this university so bad that these students were offended that there was a couple moments of silence and mourning for Scalia. And bear in mind, Scalia is an actual alum. He's a Supreme Court justice, one of the greatest ever, and he's an alumni of Georgetown. These insane children pretending to be adults at law school, leftists, are upset because they didn't like Scalia. They call him every claptrap name that the left rolls off. Racist, bigot. You know the whole. It's just all those terms are rendered toothless because the left just throws them around like dodgeballs. But here's what's fascinating. These people have lost touch with reality so much that they threw a fit. They threw a fit that there would be. And actually, the wording of it was they didn't want there to be any recognition of his name. They wanted there to be no grieving. Why this is important is because these people, they're the biggest haters. This is not only rude and ignorant and in bad taste, but it's fascism. They want everybody silenced because they didn't like the guy. The campus community refusing to mourn Scalia. 2 professors, by the way, this isn't just the students, wrote a response that recognizing the dead in this case is akin to being a defender of white privilege, oppression, and bigotry. I don't know. All I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is this is a madness, a sickness of the head that is not laughable. Because what's wrong with this branch of this ideology is that they're so convinced of their own weird, recreated, and morphed morality that they're able to do anything, willing to do anything, willing to silence anybody by any means, willing to throw out all agreed upon behavior and civility, because their idea of what is right supersedes all that stuff. And they're so sure of it, and the chutzpah and audacity and narcissism behind this thinking allows these people, think of them as a mob, to literally be capable of doing anything. Anything. They will then sprinkle justification on it They'll then sprinkle ends to a means morality on it. And think about where that ends you. Think about the dark, 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 dark dungeons and places that takes the human mind. That is today's leftism. Thank you for listening to the Brock Lawley program. Be a people of character, be a people of fortitude, and be a people of courage.
À Brock Lawley Productions.